we're being guilted because we're not interested in monogamy. We had to work for our $1 million, and you guys were gifted it.
Dr. Jordan Peterson has been on a hot tirade about how guys who are in 45, by the way, about 45 to 50, to our age range, are immature children for not acting our age and growing up and being mature enough to date women that are in an acceptable range. Now, of course, he's probably mouthing off because it's in his best interest to do so.
Peter Pan syndrome.
So my next question was, if you see a guy who's like, say, 45, 50 years old, and he's in the club, and do you look at this guy as if he is in some way the old guy in the club? Like, is he like immature? Like, does it necessarily matter to you? Does it freak you out?
I guess it kind of depends on what your mission is, right? In life, like what your goal is. Like, why are you in the club all the time? Are you in there because you have nothing else better to do?
Maybe not the club, because I'm using club as sort of in a general sense, but like, I mean, in his, so like he's
where he seems a little bit out of place, like he's older.
Well, no, he's dating younger than his range. That's and is not, quote unquote, like what is acting your age, really.
So a good example is like if you're alone in the club and you're that guy.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
but
creepy.
If you're with like 5 other women and then like
or
Michael,
men.
good example, walks into every club with like 6 girls.
I think
do you think being like 45 in the club should the guy should feel embarrassed to be
No,
there?
no,
not at all.
Yeah, and I would say no.
Your number is just a number. You know what I mean? And it's like, how do you feel? Like my number and how I feel, I'm like, wait, they don't match up.
Thanks,
you know,
guys.
so.
I mean,
I don't match up with you.
I don't ever like to be overgeneralized in anything because not everybody fits in one box.
You know what this
either.
is?
100%.
These girls
100%.
don't host their own podcasts. It's like Mia Khalifa and Jordan Peterson host their own podcast, so they want to prescribe shit for the entire planet. And these girls are like, hey, do whatever the fuck you want. Because that's how normal people are.
Right.
Well, also, I think that the normal man doesn't find his true identity till he's about 40. After college, after success, after becoming who they want, what they went to school for, and then you take a few years into that, becoming successful, then they want to go celebrate.
Can I add in here too?
Sure.
I think most people, and I don't even want to classify it as men or women here, most people do not know what they want in life or their goal in life. So one of my most important questions to me when it comes to just me and my Bumble dating is like, what's your goal? You know what I mean? And the honest answer the majority answer that I receive is, oh, I want to be successful. Well, duh, everyone wants to be successful. Let's break it down even further. Define to me what success means to you. And most people cannot do that. And so what that tells me is that you haven't spent enough time trying new things and collecting experiences and learning about yourself to know what you like or don't like to be able to say, which is why you can't even answer what should be a simple question.
That's why I was going to ask, is there such a thing as like act your age?
Isn't that just used as like...
I think so too. Well, now I want to throw this one out because this was a really good chat. The guy's like, I'm going to go to the club this summer, buy a table, bottle service with 10 hotties, and broke 21-year-old nerds are going to be seething. It's going to be great.
That's so stupid.
That it is stupid, and I'll tell you. I'm sorry. I mean, he probably was. I don't know if he meant to be stupid.
No, he's trolling me.
But he's probably trolling you. But here's the thing. But that's not the win you think it is, because this is my take on this: is that when guys get to a certain level of success, as you were saying before, you got to be 30 years old to be a man, right? You guys don't become men until they're 30, right? Well, the problem with that is when you got a guy who is successful, makes a lot of money, is attractive. Has really sort of, come into his own, and maybe he is 45 years old. If that guy can go back and get women in their 30s and in their 20s, that guy is now the apex predator when it comes to intrasexual competition. So the younger guys who feel like they ought to be getting the girls who are like within their age demographics, suddenly 45-year-old guy comes in, swoops the girls that you think belong to you because you're an old man. What are you going to talk to them about? Because you're at this stage in life and they're at this stage in life. I think that when we get into, since we're in the social media age right now, I think those 20th century ideals with respect to like act your age are just they're starting to become more and more blurred right now. but the old instinct of this guy's going to come in, he's got more money than I do, he's got more status than I do, he's still in good shape. Guys like this shouldn't be on TRT because that's an unfair advantage, and I can't get on that. Now he can use this medical treatment so that he's more masculine than I do, and he's got more resources, he's more powerful than I am, and he's got access to a lot of bitches.
So
how many guys do you know in their early 20s that even have like proper facial hair?
That's why.
So here's the thing: you don't have pube one between your legs yet. So no, it feels to me like none of you are making this argument, but often we hear this argument from women, and the argument is, "You're 45. Why don't you settle down?" And then the other thing is, "Why don't you settle down with a woman who's older, like around your age?" And then the third one is, "Why don't you settle down with someone who's around your age who has a kid?" And then the answer is this, right? You're not interested in being a long-term monogamous relationship at 22, are you?
No.
Okay.
I mean, if the right person came along, maybe.
Sure.
I was at your age.
The rest of you at 20, now you were, the rest of you at 22, who here was not interested in a long-term, you were interested in having some fucking fun when you were 22 to 24. Anybody?
I was the opposite.
Anybody? Were
I
you
was in
not-
a relationship.
I was married.
You were married? Anybody? Were you?
No, I was having fun at 22.
You were having fun at 22.
I was in Afghanistan at 22.
Yeah, that's not a lot of fun, but there were a lot of dudes, and there were hot dudes there. Katie?
I mean, I will say when I was younger and I pictured my life at 22, I thought I would be like married, settling down. But now that I've been 22, hell no. I was having fun the whole time.
So let me express this to you. What's happened is when you guys are at your now, these numbers have changed somewhat because of plastic surgery and women are taking care of their bodies longer. But in general, men swipe right the most between the ages of 23 and 25 for women. That's when they're at their peak. So I want you to consider at 23 to 25. You've been gifted $1 million, okay? And the men, we're just kind of losers at 23 to 25. We were at the top of the totem pole when we were in high school, then we're at the bottom in college, then we graduate from college, and we're at the bottom at our work. Does that make sense? So we don't have $1 million. By the time we get to 38, 40, 45, we have a literal $1 million, okay? That's one of the things we've done. And so now you guys at 22 are going on a yacht, and we guys at 45 are going on the same yacht. We had to work a lot harder for a lot longer to get on that same yacht that you're on. When you guys were in your early 20s, not some of you, but not all of you, but some of you were not interested in monogamy. But for some reason, we're being guilted because we're not interested in monogamy. We had to work for our $1 million, and you guys were gifted it. Does that make sense? I'm not saying you guys don't work for a living. I'm saying you guys know when you're young and hot, there's a lot going your way, and you didn't work for it. You're just kind of young and hot. Does that make sense? And so that's where a lot of men are being shamed, including by Jordan Peterson, because that kind of fits with his narrative. They're kind of shaming men, and I'm like, no, wait a second. When they were in their, when I was 23 and I would talk to a hot girl who was 23, she would not piss on me if I was on fire. Now it's funny because we're both 45 and now I'm not interested in her anymore. And when I want to date someone who's 23, the problem is you weren't interested in monogamy when I was younger. Now I'm supposed to be interested in monogamy when I did all this work. That's the problem. Does that make sense?
I think the thing I like about Jordan Peterson, though, is like he does have like the whole family values dynamic, and I want that. I want the family values. You know, like I want. I want. I'm 33. I'm not 23.
The brochure looks good. Put it that way. The advertising looks good.
That's what I want.
No, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that the brochure that is Jordan Peterson looks good, but it's like it is impractical, and I'll tell you why. Because I was just looking at this one here. Is that you can't possibly tell a guy that just started hitting his stride at 30 years old to man up and settle down at that age, especially when he's just coming into his own, right?
Yeah.
So. It's not just women who are sending this message to guys who are like in their 30s, say, you know, at your age kind of thing. It's also guys.
Can I say something
who
too?
who don't fuck, who are telling guys who are just coming into their own, you need to act responsibly and do your duty kind of thing. Go ahead.
I was going to say that. I mean, that makes sense to me. Logistically, like it can happen. It has happened. Men versus women, just in general, like. Women, if something happens to us or we're upset, we can always be coddled. There's always somebody that we can go to where they can wrap our arms around us. Now, when it comes to men, when men are having that downtime, because I feel like men as they grow up have always kind of been taught to kind of suppress their emotions. Like, who the fuck do men have that they can turn to when they need somebody to almost coddle them? Because otherwise they're looked at as less than. Does that make sense? Or not as manly, but realistically, they're human and they have emotions too. Men don't really have a place where they can go for that. They don't have somebody that like could be like, oh yeah, I'll talk to you. Yeah, they can talk to a guy friend. Not the same though.
So,
you know what I mean?
They're gonna be like, this guy is a little bitch. Like,
right?